if we're going by this notion, I do think at this point that they are starting to leave sprinkles of what they are capable of, and helping us advance to a rate where we can go join this like greater civilization. What is up, y'all? It's episode 65 of Your House, Our Rules. We have a special one today. We're going to get into some deep conspiracy theory type stuff. It's been a while, with all the stuff that's been coming out about aliens and them having a whole like congressional hearing and stuff about it. It just kind of makes sense. So we may talk a little bit about it. We're going to get it started off, but if you don't know, you've been living under a rock, and the alien people, like as reclusive as they are, every time something about a new UFO sighting comes up, they pop back into the mix. But if you have been living under the rock, Dave Grush, who's a former Air Force veteran, he came out and he became a whistleblower essentially, and was talking about how he was part of a task force with the Air Force that essentially would go find these crashed spaceships and stuff like that, and then bring them back so they could try and reverse engineer them. And when that all happened, a bunch of people came out, and they're having a whole congressional meeting with like David Fravor and some other big guys in the whole scenario. And when that happened, people basically came out and were like, "Oh, aliens exist," and the government has just confirmed it because they're actually talking about that. But little do they know, they've declassified multiple UFO sightings, saying they don't know what this is, and declassified Project Blue Book, which is this old, what used to be a conspiracy theory of them basically just doctrinating these fake UFO events to just destabilize shit. And so, yeah, this stuff isn't new to us. It's not anything that we haven't seen before, and people are kind of overreacting about it. But I mean, this stuff has been going on since as early as Bob Lazar. Bob Lazar was probably like at the forefront of those guys who like you listened or you've heard talk about aliens that like you can't really say that he's lying about it, because he's had all his stories matched up pretty much through like 40 years that he's done it, and a bunch of the stuff makes sense. Some of the videos that we've seen kind of follow his like anti-gravity field like UFOs and stuff like that. So we're just kind of, as things go on, things get a little bit more declassified, and it is what it is. So we're going to talk about it. We're going to get into some stuff. I know Jack wants to talk about the Fermi paradox and some of the big stuff that we have with that, but first of all, let me just get to talking to you. We talked about it a little bit before. You haven't really been following the whole like new thing that's happened with this Grush guy, have you?
A little bit about it, but I see it I'm just skeptical. I think it's it's election season. There's a whole bunch of stuff going on. Here's a reason for us to just not pay attention. Mm-hmm. I don't know. That's why I don't care so much. And like you said, there's already all these other things that we could turn to. So I get the excitement from some people, but I'm just a little bit apathetic towards it, I guess. Yeah. I'm a big believer in aliens, though.
I am too.
Kind of towed back and forth with how I feel about whether or not, they visit us constantly or whatever. But, it's just, it's one of those things I'm not super worried about what this guy's saying, because, I mean, I've already believed it, so I guess.
Yeah, I and as you said before, it kind of seems like misdirection, which as it does. I talked about Project Blue Book a little bit at the opening, and that was classic in the 50s, I think that they were using. And, we have stuff going on in the world. Like a big one right now is the huge militarization of China that's going on, and how like Australia and Indonesia, Japan, and the United States are like forming this essentially barricade in the Chinese Pacific Ocean. And it like I just shared something in the group chat the other day about how Biden passed a law that is essentially blocking funding to these huge tech corporations or whatever, because China's getting super aggressive with Taiwan, who is at the forefront along with us of the microchip processors and stuff like that. So that's a huge deal going on in the world, and it would make sense that they really don't want us to get like nosy about that and feel about that. And like you said before, people get super energetic and they love talking about aliens and stuff like that, and that's where you start getting the crazies out, and it's just like, this isn't stuff that we haven't heard before. and it just is what it is. But with that being said, let's kind of get into some of the stuff that we want to talk about. As you said, I totally agree with the whole like alien thing with me. It's an inevitability with as vast as the universe is that there is alien life out there. Whether or not it's intelligent, whether or not it's had enough time to actually develop into a intelligent life form, there's bunches of reasons. That's why we get into the Fermi paradox and stuff like that. So, I mean, you kind of introduce what you want to talk about with the Fermi paradox, because, you talked about the great filter and stuff like that. So, what you got?
So, the Fermi paradox is essentially this. We have this understanding of the cosmos, and we use what they call the Drake equation to identify, or I guess predict, how many habitable planets there could be in the known universe. And the number is massive, right? Yeah. So you have this massive number. So then why aren't we interacting with them? Why haven't we seen evidence? Why haven't our signals reached anyone, et cetera, et cetera? Well, you have this, that's essentially what they call the great silence, is the fact that there is no contact.
Now,
like there's like this, just blackness. Like, are we wrong? Is it just us, et cetera, et cetera?
And let me just add something from there real quick. Another thing that is like the Fermi paradox was what, the 40s, 50s, 60s, somewhere around there, multiple decades ago.
Yeah, it's pretty old. I would have to.
Okay. So, I mean, the only point that I want to kind of make on that was they were already like drawing these conclusions back then. And the Drake equation, it comes down to something. I don't know how all the math works, but it's something like in our galaxy alone, there should be like 100,000, like six-figure life planets that are able to support not just life, but intelligent life and stuff like that. And that was before the 90s when we started really getting the technology to even figure out that most stars do have exoplanets. Before the 90s, we thought that exoplanets like our solar system was a rarity. And now that we've learned that, it only adds more to like, why is there this silence? Why haven't we heard anything? But go ahead and continue with what you're saying.
Well, as far as the great silence goes, like that is like that's the paradox. Like there's so much likelihood. Why haven't we seen anything? So that really brings you to what they call like there's like a level of stages as far as like special development, called the Kardashev scale, right? And so starting out at like a basic microorganisms are evolving up into, whatever, like the ability to use tools or to reason and use logic. And then you move forward where we are, define sentience. I'm not going to do that here.
I know, I know a big one with the Fermi paradox was the whole, what you're talking about, a filter that talk about the shift from into like a eukaryotic stage or whatever, like multicellular organisms or however you want to define that. I don't know exactly how that's defined, but yeah, that's the big one that I've heard of. But
that's the thing, is they don't know. Like the problem right now is like if the great filter is a nice thing to consider. It's like have we passed it though? Like that's where we're at. Like is the reason we don't have any contact with any other interdimensional beings or beings that are traveling at light speed across the universe is because we haven't reached the great filter, and it's very, very, very rare, like super low probability that we can progress to that point,
right?
Or have we passed it?
Yeah,
and like that's.
Well, have we passed it too? The good theory to bring up too is we live in the Milky Way galaxy. Our specific solar system is located very far on the edge of the galaxy. So everything is expanding outwards as the universe cools, and we're so far on the out that maybe we have just been around as a civilization so long, or as a species so long, that we've had more time to develop, and maybe it's not necessarily a rarity, but we've just had more time to do it. Now, if you get into it, each civilization might be able to develop a little bit faster or slower, depending on who you are. So that's where you kind of get into a little bit of fork in the road, I guess. But as you said, there is nothing out there. There is absolutely no evidence to really go on. So it's really hard, and that's why we kind of ponder these things. Yeah.
Exactly. And that's just it's worth considering. All the stages of our evolution, or the Earth's evolution, rather. Like, it's not just humanity. The Earth is a planet. Where could the filter lie? Did we pass it? Like you said, I'm a firm believer that there's other life in our solar system. I believe that the moon Enceladus around Saturn, we know that it has geothermal activity, so there's heat in the center of it. We know it has liquid water, and it's just covered in ice.
Right.
There's a high probability that there's something, even if it's just single cell organisms, living in the water.
And
they've got hydrogen, they've got oxygen,
And where did our life on our planet develop from or evolve from? All from like Mariana's Trench, down in the trenches and stuff like that, and then kind of expand upward. We developed from waters. That's why we have gelatinous eyes or gelatin eyes or whatever and stuff like that. And that's a whole nother thing that we can get into. But yeah, Europa. I mean, there's a good science fiction film called Europa. I don't know if you've ever seen it.
It's a good one.
Is it Magnet? I think is or whatever. They're essentially going over to Europa to go to this moon of Saturn, and they're going down there, and they end up finding when they get
Jupiter.
there. Is it Jupiter? I thought it was.
Europa's around Jupiter.
I thought it was Saturn, but
4 Galilean satellites.
No, it is
Europa, Ganymede, Callisto, and Io.
It is Jupiter, because I remember a big thing with them was the radiation, which I was going to bring up. From a gas giant like that, it emits a lot of radiation, so that could be a deterrent towards them, even though it might be at the trenches of the oceans that they have underneath this ice or whatever. But still, when a planetary body as big as that is just emitting this much radiation, that it could affect that entire planet, because we're not as close to it as where we are on Earth and stuff. But yeah, no. So I'm a firm believer in that too, but we still have to have a lot of technology. And I think people like Elon Musk, who are trying to make missions to Mars or whatever, I think they're at the kind of the forefront of figuring this stuff out. And I think it is important to kind of figure this stuff out. Eventually we're going to outgrow this planet. And if we want to live as a species, we need to go outwards. And a lot of people, I think, with the whole like UFOs and stuff like that, some of the conspiracy theories, they want to be like, oh, we've been visiting so many times, they're just waiting for us to reach a certain level before they come and save us. Almost like a omnipotent fucking godly figure or whatever. So yeah. But,
well, we also have this tendency to anthropomorphize everything. Like we think human.
Yeah.
So everything that we imagine resembles humanity. Right. We think that we're carbon-based life forms, so everything else is carbon-based life forms. They're going to breathe oxygen and et cetera, et cetera. That's not. It doesn't. There's no hard and fast rule that's the case.
No.
I mean, think about
There's a lot
Titan. The moon Titan around Jupiter. That's It's like got methane rivers and shit like that. We don't know. Maybe life evolves in a way there where they filter that shit through.
Yeah,
Breathe that. We don't know.
And there's a big thing that like carbon-based life, because carbon is the fabric of our world of organic life for us. Silicone is another one that's found very prevalent in our universe, and people think that it might be very easy for them to do that. But even beyond that, like you said, we just don't have enough knowledge of anything outside of our own sphere of reality. This pale blue dot suspended in a light beam to really understand what else can even happen in the world or in the universe. In the universe, man, like it's kind of theorized that even the universe itself is sentient in a way. And if you get into fractals, how everything just has a smaller buildup and makeup of itself, it would make sense that maybe this is just a part of something bigger that is another, like our planetary bodies are just cells of a bigger turtle floating through another multiverse or some shit like that. So yeah, man, there's a lot.
You're speaking of a panpsychism, by the way. That's the belief or view that everything has a mind or a mind-like quality to it.
Yeah.
Everything has a degree of sentience.
Yeah, and I don't. I use
cognition.
I use the word sentience lightly because it's just so vast that we really don't know what's going on. But it's kind of just a theory that like everything is a smaller version of the bigger picture, if that makes any sense. So, you know.
Yeah, I mean, it's one of those things that like we are the ones that like I guess create that we draw that line in the sand because you know
Yeah.
as we are one to do, humans think that, the greatest thing that's ever existed because we've no evidence otherwise, right? Um, but at the same time, look what we do to ourselves. Like for all our intelligence and all our reasoning and all our logic, all of our culture and all of our growth and evolution, we're still destroying ourselves. We can't get over the same fucking problems that have been going on forever that may end us.
Yeah.
But then you look at something like the planet Earth. If we disappear, it's going to regenerate. It's going to regenerate. It might go really cold, might get really hot, might get slammed by an asteroid. But for the most part, it's got a pretty, I mean, for all we know, I wouldn't say eternal because everything's finite.
No,
right?
and we know our sun's going to fucking eventually go
it'll eventually
supernova.
go out.
Yeah,
But like the Earth by itself, it's just like, it just has this way. And I mean, again, I'm using the Earth as if it's like, it's our planet, but everything goes through these cycles, So, and I don't know, explaining that's actually one of the more like beautiful and intriguing things about science that really got me into it as a kid is like, that's why people ask these questions. They want to know why things are the way they are, and we'll always be grasping at that. We'll always be grasping at that. I don't think there's ever a way we answer every question.
There's always more. Yeah, there's always more questions to ask. The second you figure one thing out, it just raises 100 more questions behind it. So, yeah. So that could also be another reason with the great filter, as you just mentioned, with like us destroying our own planet. Maybe that's one reason why we haven't, because all beings eventually get to a point where they're stuck into the same routine and end up just killing themselves off. And it's a great possibility. But let me ask you something. With your whole idea of the great filter, what do you personally think that the filter is that might do that? If you were to grasp to that rationale, because I have my own theories about why we haven't discovered any aliens or anything like that, and the great filter is part of it. But I just kind of want to know where you think, because we've already mentioned a couple of them. So what's your personal belief in it?
Okay, well, I could go a couple different ways here. I don't necessarily think we've reached the great filter. I don't, for a few reasons. I just don't know. I think the hardest part is overcoming the part of us that's so animalistic, the instinctual side, that selfishness, that greed. Like we just cannot overcome the differences that are among us, even though we're so alike. I think that's a huge portion of it. Realizing that we have to unify to get anything worth doing done beyond this, and so that I think is a big part of the great filter. But I will say, as far I go back and forth on whether or not I really do believe that we're being constantly visited. But it does make sense. I don't know. There's like a lot of things that happened at the start of the 20th century, or around the start, with World War I and World War II, and the development of the nuclear bomb and everything. Like that's when this big uptick started happening. But it'd be absolutely wrong to say that this was just like that's like there's this point in time and then aliens, because I mean we have so much evidence that there have things have come before. I mean, I could go on. We could fucking do a whole different podcast about ancient civilizations and the tie-in with where they got their technology from. I'm not an ancient alien theorist. I'm not, but there is a lot of shit that people don't pay attention to. Yeah. As far as just like the art they created, things that left behind, symbols, stuff like that, things that transcended. I mean, we know we do have an understanding of what the Earth looked like. Going back mean,
10,000
up to
year ago.
Pangea.
Yeah.
No, we know.
Okay. Well, you went farther back than that.
We know how the continents, like everything's shaped. We have an understanding. We have a fair understanding. I'm not going to say it's nowhere near complete.
Yeah.
Of what people were capable of. So, like, I guess where I'm going with this, so I don't just rattle on with it. There were cultures around the world doing very similar things who seemingly had no way to communicate with each other. And is it just like what a coincidence that they were all progressing at the same rate? Like, that doesn't seem likely.
Yeah. Well,
and, I mean, go ahead.
No, I think the crazy thing about it is, we even like in known history, what we have now, like up to 10,000 BC, if you want to get into the whole ancient civilizations and stuff like that, the Graham Hancock, that's irrelevant to me. Up until about the late 1800s, early 1900s, that's when we started just developing rapidly with our technology. And that's one of the things where, like, you have the theories that ancient civilizations were visited by aliens or whatever, but at that point we might have been too primitive. And a lot of people think that the atom bomb was the one that might have brought them back, but I think that we were developing at a really fast rate even before that. So I think if we're going to go by this whole notion that we have been visited multiple times by alien cultures or whatever, something made them start paying attention to us. And I think that it's because of that now we have like the Grush dude who's trying to reverse engineer and going out and finding these things. I think at this point, if we're going by this notion, I do think at this point that they are starting to leave sprinkles of what they are capable of and helping us advance to a rate where we can go join this like greater civilization of like aliens and stuff like that. I think that there's a filter almost in and of itself where we have to maybe it's get past our animal instincts or whatever or do that. But I think that there is a reason why they're trying to lead us in a direction. I don't think that they're hostile. If they were hostile and they can travel across interstellar space to get to us, they could easily just level our planet. They have no reason to. So maybe it's just the fact that they're just studying us. We're just like ants to them, or maybe we are engineered because you had brought up before that there's millions of different species on this planet, millions, but we're the only ones that have like sentience. I don't want to say that like we're the only ones with sentience, because I do believe some animals have like a sentience and they're not able to express it, or we're able to understand their expression, but I think that they do have deep thought. But we are able to manipulate the environment around us. No other species on this planet does that. None. Except maybe monkeys and chimpanzees, but it's kind of been proven that they learned that from us. So yeah, sorry, I just got off on a little bit of a tangent, but I think that it kind of went with what you were talking about. But
it's a good point, and also like it's possible even if we weren't engineered, it's possible that life was also brought here on an asteroid or something
by
like
accident.
That's how a lot of there's theories that's where a lot of our water came from icy rocks slamming into a rock planet, or icy asteroids and stuff. Like, it's just like there's a whole bunch of things, man. It could have happened, and I don't know. It's fun to think about, though.
It is fun to think about. So you're kind of your filter is you don't think that we've reached that great filter yet, and
I don't. I really don't.
Okay, and you think that do you think or do you not think that we've been visited like multiple times?
Man, if you would have asked me that question 3 years ago, I would have been a firm like, yes, absolutely.
Right.
Then like I kind of got to this point where I got overly skeptical. Like, we would have concrete evidence by now. But I don't know. I really do go back and forth, and I hate it about myself. I don't like to flip flop, but I could not sit here right now and tell you that no, I don't think aliens visit us.
Yeah.
There's just so much that goes on. And there's other theories that could explain it. Like, I use aliens loosely because it could be time traveling humans. Like, that really could be it too. Yeah. Like, we don't fucking know.
Some of the UFO sightings that we see could be like just super like Black Ops stuff that we have invented ourselves, or Russia or China or something like that. Like, it's possible.
Yeah.
I think that to be honest with you, I think that some of the things that we've seen, though, I think that that's out of the realm of possibility of what we can create. Now, I don't know what they're working on at like Area 51, but just seeing the way some of these things move on and off camera and stuff like that, like, I don't see how they would be able to create something like that with our current physical knowledge. Like, it just doesn't make sense.
Especially if we had that kind of technology, if we had that, it would be militarized so quickly,
and we would take over the world immediately.
Exactly. Yeah. It would be used the same way the A-bomb was, to show them, don't fuck with us. That's what would happen. So the fact that we aren't doing that, I don't know. Or actually, I'll say this. It is very possible that all of these great nations, with their fucking democratic republics and fucking monarchies and all this shit, it could be that behind the scenes of all of them, and we can just get into conspiracy theories here, there are just the powerful families running it with all the wealth, who are feeding into the military, who really control shit and just have a really tight lid on it. It's possible. Not probable, but it's possible.
Yeah, but I just have a hard time buying into that. And it all just goes back to the fact that, like, human nature, don't know what it is that causes it. It could be the fact that money does make you, like, arrogant in power, or that the power seek money. It could be either one of those. But the one defining thing is, usually people with a lot of money tend to care less about others and want to dominate their own realm. So I have a hard time believing if we possessed this type of technology, no matter who it is, that they wouldn't just fucking create their own world domination, in a sense. If you could do it, I mean, shit. If I had the power to, like, use that right now and just shut down all the world governments or whatever, I'd fucking do it. Like, there's no reason not to. I'd put whatever one I felt was the best, which would probably be in the United States of America, put them in charge. Fuck China and fuck Russia. And then if United States want to do something, fucking, I have the technology to put them down as well. So I'd want it to fucking be a coexisting thing, government type ran thing, but I'd in the end have the power to shut it down if I need to. And why would I not exercise that power? That's where I see it.
Well, I guess I see what you're saying, but I don't think you're properly placing yourself in the position of, let's say, an ultra wealthy 1%er elite, or like, fuck it.
Well, yeah, I'm not
they wouldn't need anymore. Like, what could they possibly have to gain by unveiling it? You know what I'm saying? Like, they're already at the top of the food chain. We don't know who they are, hypothetically. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
like,
I get that.
The only doing this would just expose them. And granted, you have everyone in a vice grip with this superpower now. But then what happened with, again, we'll go back to the 40s, with Oppenheimer and the Manhattan Project. Like, it got out. The Russians got it, and then the Israelis got it. It's like, that's what happens.
Yeah.
Once you have a technology, too many people. If you piss off too many people, someone is going to fucking run and tell somebody. That's just what happens.
But
they're going to take it.
I have a hard time thinking that, like, if it is this technology that is that advanced, that it is necessarily capable of being reverse engineered by the masses, or capable of being brought down by the masses, or even, like, used against it. Like, it wouldn't be something that I had on display, per se. It would be something that I used and then go hide. And if it has these cloaking devices and able to jam radars and is able to move through water in the ways that some of these UFOs have, like, who's really going to touch me? I'll just fucking go do what I need to do, go hide it, boom, done. So, yeah, I know. But that all just goes back to the original point. I just don't think that we physically have the technology to do it ourselves. That's why it has to be something of another realm, or something that was created as, like, a diversion. And I think that that's one of the reasons, like you said before, 3 years ago, I would have. Fucking Mexican beer changed a lot of things for me. I have a hard time trusting anybody in power. at this point in time. And we've seen stuff with like Project Blue Book, so we know that they're trying to misdirect our attention other places. And that's why some of them I could see as real, but other ones I think that they're just going based off that to make it look like there's more of that going on to help silence, do whatever the fuck it is that these shadow governments need to do. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I don't know, man. It's tough. It's we live in a very interesting time. You know, it's the irony of being so the ability to be so informed and to communicate with everyone.
Mm-hmm.
Yet we communicate mostly through phones or screens.
But be so out of touch with reality.
It's so out of touch. It just like I mean, you have to be able to admit to yourself that you really can't know what's going on. You're propagandized. You're bombarded with algorithmic advertisements. Like it's wild.
Everything's a fucking algorithm, bro.
Yeah,
everything.
Things are catered to you as an individual,
mm-hmm.
and it's just we get so used to it. And I don't know. It's also one of those things like going back, I guess, to what you were talking about. Like if you could, put one thing in power, like what kind of anarchy would that create, right? This is something that I like to mention to some of my younger friends who are like, oh, like, fuck it, rebel, I'm ready for the revolution. It's like, yeah, cool. But like, what happens? Because like most of us have a very small chance of surviving if the food chain breaks down.
Mm-hmm.
If we can't go grocery shopping, the fuck, what do you think is going to happen?
People are going to die.
Really consider that shit. Yeah,
people are going to die. I know. I'm well aware of it.
People are going to
well aware of it. I think we need some people dying. We need a great filter of our own. I'll be the great filter.
you start a first. No, but like, bro, like major metropolitan areas like this, like I mean, fucking
yeah, I know.
It's crazy to think
anarchy,
how reliant we are on our system.
Yeah, and anarchy is something that like I believe in the power to of myself to govern myself. I believe in that. I don't necessarily agree with the other people's ability to govern themselves. So I know it would be absolute chaos and would be bullshit in an ideal world, but that goes into like utopian Marxism type shit. So yeah. But yeah, if in an ideal world, everybody could, but we know most people won't be able to. Look at what happens when any fucking big natural disaster happens. We get looting and just it brings out the worst in people. So yeah.
Well, I mean, just people have, by and large, people are going to do what's best for them, or not even what's best for them, just what is convenient for them, what saves them time out of laziness, out of selfishness, whatever. It's like the, the grocery cart. The grocery cart?
Oh yeah, pushing the grocery carts back to the aisle or whatever.
The integrity to do it, and even though no one's going to do it, there's no rule that says you have to do it.
Mm-hmm.
But doing it means you're making sure someone else doesn't have to do it for you.
Mm-hmm.
Like you're not leaving it there for someone else to hit. This whole thing is like there's no rule to do it, but you should. You should.
Yeah.
And that could go on and on. It's like when you have to get off on a highway. Next exit in a mile, but you're trying to fly, so you're going all the way to the left of it, and you have to slow down traffic for everyone to get back right.
And I do
shit like that.
I do think our society does a pretty decent job of it, and I think you don't think so?
Absolutely no, absolutely not, bro. Traffic is the biggest reason. Like, nothing makes me lose more hope in humanity than traffic. No one cares about anyone else.
Well, here's my thing with like something about traffic. It's usually like one or two people that are fucking up things for everything. I would say, you don't think so? I
witness it every day.
I think that as a whole, you also live in Nashville, so it's really bad with that. I think as a whole, people are more willing, and it's not necessarily altruistic in nature. It's more of just a programming thing. I think that people are programmed to just like, think about it. When we're driving home, how many times have you drove home from work and just completely blacked out? I think that we're just essentially like at that point programmed to just drone and drive a certain type of way. It's the jackasses that are trying to get in at home so fast, cutting people off, making people slow down, that end up creating a huge traffic jam.
Sometimes. I'm more talking about, okay, so like, look, this is something I noticed today, actually, like this actual thing. I was in the front of, there was 4 lanes, and we're at a red light, I'm one of the lanes or I'm one of the cars at the very front of the 4 lanes. And I was looking over because me and Jackie are just talking. All 3 of the other cars, the people were looking down on their phone, and I was just thinking to myself, I wonder if they're going to keep looking once it turns green.
Doesn't that just come down to just like lapse in judgment or paying attention or whatever?
It's the same thing as the fucking grocery cart, man. If you're at the front of that fucking red light,
but the person who
it should be in your mind.
Hold on, no, because the person who's moving the grocery cart or choosing not to do that, they're choosing not to do that. The person at the light who's looking at their phone is just like, oh, red light, I'm looking at my phone, and then they don't realize that it turned green and they end up slowing traffic down. It wasn't a purposeful thing.
No, it's the same thing, man. It was just, trust me, listen to what I'm saying. Like, it's the same thing. It's the selfishness. Your time is so much more valuable than everyone else's. You got to get that 10 seconds on your phone rather than just look at the light, so you can make sure you can go, to make sure as many cars can go as possible. This shit creates more traffic.
I don't see the similarity in those. I understand where you're trying to get at, but I don't see. I think one is different than the other. It's
integrity.
It's
integrity.
One is choosing, and I guess you could say that one is choosing to look at their phone when technically they're not, but they're just trying to pass the time at that point. And whereas someone who's doing
that's a choice. That is a choice. That is a choice. It's the same choice.
It is a choice, but they're just trying to pass the time. Whereas the person who isn't pushing the fucking cart back just isn't doing it. And to be honest with you.
It's 10 to 20 seconds.
I know.
That's how far we've that's ridiculous.
And to be honest with you, man, I don't see many people just leaving their carts outside in the parking lot and stuff like that. Most people put them back in the fucking thing. I would say 90% of people do that, unless you're in a really bad part of town. Or actually, it could go the opposite way because some of them fucking rich people are snobby. So maybe it could be.
I see a lot of shit. I'm observing of it, man. And I'm not saying it's a majority. It's definitely minority people don't put them back, but it does happen often enough. And again, like I'm saying, like it all comes down to a degree of selfishness. It's just, and I'm not speaking like I don't do it either. Mm-hmm. I can be fucking selfish as shit, and sometimes I'm like, God damn, like what a dick I was today. Mm-hmm. Like it's just part of being human, and being able to acknowledge that and grow from that is so important. I don't know how we're on this with an alien podcast, but that is super important.
Yeah, no, you were saying something. I was going to loop it back into it, and I had a really good one, and it kind of derailed to a point where I couldn't. But I was going to bring it to the point where, like, if we are an alien civilization or whatever, or if there are alien civilizations out there that are visiting us and stuff like that, what would make them want to interact with us in any type of way? It's just like the people at the stop sign who are on their phones or whatever, the drones. I think I was talking about people just kind of like that drone mentality. They're just doing what they are. I think that's what they're just doing. They're just flying through space. And a lot of the ships that are actually coming here, I don't believe they're actually like manned ships or whatever. They're probably drones sent from their home planet or whatever. But they're just out there studying the universe, just like we studied river water and stuff like that. So, yeah, I don't know if you have any comments on that.
Oh, that's a possibility. I do think it's not. I don't think it's super likely that they would come here just to study us. If they were not over this great deal of time, I think the most likely scenario that aliens would come here is for resources. Honestly, I really do.
I have a hard time believing they would come here for resources when there is just an entire universe of resources out there that they got. I mean, if we're talking about interstellar traveling beings or whatever, their uses are going to be so much higher, or their intake is going to be so much higher than what our measly planet could provide. Maybe our sun, they might be interested in our sun, but I don't think we would have any idea if they're examining our sun. Because you can start talking about like Dyson spheres and harnessing the power of a sun for energy or whatever.
You're right.
Yeah, I don't see how that would logically make any sense. I think that they're probably, if we're going by that notion, it would be something like, they have drones that are stationed. They know that there's intelligent life out here. or maybe they're just touring around or whatever. But once something is detected, or they all just have their own region that they are supposed to study, I think that there's just their job. They're these little worker drones that are just flying around studying things. Maybe one day they're coming here, and that's when Commander Fravor sees his, and then they fly away and they go to Jupiter and do some studying around Jupiter or whatever. I think that they're just like us. They have a thirst for knowledge, and they want to know as much as possible. And those drones probably help them. It's just might be menial data information to them, but to us, it's something more grand.
Maybe they want to fuck us.
Maybe they do want to fuck us. Yes, Jack. I'm pretty sure they do want to fuck us. I'd fuck me.
I'd say, I'd fuck me too.
Oh God.
Does that make me gay?
If you want to fuck you, I don't know.
Does that make me gay?
Because
Does that make me gay and incest? Wait.
Well, it depends. Because technically, you fuck yourself every time you jerk off, but. Are you talking about, like, if there was a doppelganger of you? But then again, if it was a doppelganger, technically it wouldn't be you.
So if I clone myself and had sex with myself,
technically that wouldn't be you. It would be genetically the same as you, so I guess it would be incest. And you would be gay because it is another male. Yeah, that's how gay works. Don't let these fucking leftist progressive motherfuckers fool you, dude. Okay? Until the aliens come down here and show me something different, I ain't buying into it.
I'm cute, damn it. Whatever.
Okay. Well,
I'm not into you because you're weird.
That's fucking a damn lie.
No.
that's a goddamn lie. You've been trying to fuck me. I'm like, no, Jack, we can't do that.
Because of Keith.
Do you think people look at us
Keith,
weird?
You got ghosts in your pants, Keith.
Oh, Jesus Christ. This one just derailed real quick. Real quick.
This is doing a good old classic Your House
That's
on
our
Rules
rules.
segue into paranormal now.
Okay, we're talking about ghosts. Fucking, I don't believe in ghosts at all, bro. I don't either, but I will say, bro. Actually, let me get this one out real quick. I was at my parents visiting 2 weeks ago, and I like to go out on their back patio. They have a screened-in porch, and they have a TV out there, and I like to watch fucking sports or whatever. It's the middle of summer, so there's no sports I want to watch. But Shark Week was on, and fucking Shark Week had fucking commercials for like paranormal activities. I was talking to my dad. I was like, I can't believe people still watch this stupid shit, bro. Like, at all, because I don't get it. I don't believe in ghosts. I think that everything has some rationale behind it. Whether or not you're able to explain it, that just means you didn't have all the in-source information that you needed. So, yeah. But continue with what you were about to say.
I mean, I feel the same. It's just like, I don't know, man. Like, I've had enough anecdotal experiences with other shit that only I can attest to kind of like make me bend a little bit when I hear someone who's super convicted about what they saw and experienced or heard or did, whatever. Because, like, yeah, of course, like, there's definitely situations and context that can go into, like, why a person could see something a certain way or hear something a certain way or whatever. But, like, for me, I'm pretty confident when I experience something about what comes after it, like how I internalize it and how I rationalize it. Yeah. So I don't know. Maybe people are experiencing some shit.
Well, here's the thing. Like you just said, I am the same way. And every single experience that I've ever had that some people might be like, oh, ghost, a completely rational thought comes across my head that is like, oh no, it could have been this. Like, no, it wasn't a ghost downstairs in the basement. It was probably just my 100-year-old fucking house settling. like most stuff you see in the night. And then you have people who, like, they'll tell you ghost stories and stuff like that. And usually when you, like, push them on it a little bit, there's a pretty rational reason behind the things that are happening to them, but they just want to believe ghosts, so they're going to believe ghosts. Right. Like, it's like, yeah, like this. It's like, okay, so we were out in the middle of the forest or whatever, and, it's not in the middle of the forest. We're out camping, and we saw this light for a second, and there was this sound or whatever, and, like, we heard this loud crash. And it's like, okay, well, were there other people in this campground? Yeah. Well, did you ever think that they might have fucking turned on a flashlight and they were drunk and fucking one of them fell over or some shit, or maybe fucking, was it windy outside? Yeah, it was windy outside. Maybe a branch flew off a fucking tree close to you or some shit like that. Those are very like light examples of it, I guess I'll say, but most of the time you're just like, it's like they just want to lead it in the direction of ghosts, and I strongly believe that. Yeah.
Well, I mean that's why Occam's razor, like the most likely probability, the most likely scenario is usually what happens. We just tend to exaggerate and romanticize, and it's just embellish. I guess it's just kind of what we do, kind of what humans do. I don't know why. But yeah.
I don't either. I mean, we've talked about it a little bit, but people do really have a want for paranormal. I think that it's them wanting to understand. We live in this crazy, fucked up world. I think that they just want to have an understanding of something that's so incredibly hard to understand. I think that gives people comfort.
I think it makes people feel special, because like we're all very insignificant for the most part.
Well, you don't think
very few of us have a degree of like, I don't know, fucking, not all of us can influence the world. Not all of us can leave a lasting impact that is going to fucking affect humanity. So like shit like that, I think it's clout. I mean, essentially, it's for our ego. I guess
yeah. But you don't think that like finding aliens or ghosts or something like that would kind of humble you a bit? Because you're saying that like it would make people want to feel extraordinary, but if I found out that there were like, if aliens came down here tomorrow, I'd be like, damn, we really ain't shit. Know what I mean?
I get what you're saying.
Yeah.
But I think it's the fact that you could be the one that says like, oh, hey, like you're like that guy though, is what I mean.
So like, you're trying to say like you're the guy who discovered it, or fucking okay, you're the guy who finally proved it. Yeah.
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 And since we're just like kind of freewheeling through all kinds of shit now, bro, Bigfoot, that motherfucker's real. I'm just saying it, dude.
Are you a Bigfoot guy?
Bro, I don't know. Like, I can't even like call it Bigfoot, bro. But something's going on in our national fucking parks, and a lot of people just don't give a shit. Well, people disappear all the fucking time.
Again.
All the time.
Well, here's the thing. A lot of people have a reason to disappear. National parks, they're national parks for...
You haven't looked into
no, dude. A lot of people. No, I know what you're talking about, like missing 411 and shit like that. Like I know what you're talking about, but if you look into it, there's a lot of fucking background that says that these people had a reason to disappear. Some people, and you know what too? Some people fucking don't want to fucking be found. Therefore, they're not going to give you a reason to question why they want to disappear.
You're so wrong.
Okay.
I can show you so much of fucking. You're gonna tell me the doctor hiking the mountain with his peers in Colorado, who decided he was going to go up one more stop and disappeared.
I just want to stop you right there. He was hiking up a fucking mountain, Jack. There's a high possibility that he just fell off the fucking mountain.
No. It's a snowy mountain. He didn't just fall off and tumble. It's like a thing. It's not like he's like rock climbing, He's hiking up. But they did an exhausting search. The man knew where he was going. They never. There's so many stories like that where they disappear. They never find shit. Clearly wasn't an animal attack. Never found a fucking body. Sometimes they find. Bro, there's so much, dude. There's so much.
I don't know.
It would be a whole other thing. I'd have to send you material because you're just not educated.
I've looked into it. One kid fucking told me to look into missing 411 and stuff like that, and I looked into it. I've looked at some of the authors who have fucking written about the stuff, and like it just all seems like fucking very logical shit. And you know what? Some people, Jack, just want to disappear. And if they make you if they make you believe that they have a reason to want to disappear, you're gonna look for them harder.
No, first of all, you're already fucking up because if you're doing missing 411 and you're not looking up David Paulides, not a bunch of authors. This is the guy. Everyone else is making money off the work he has done for decades. He's the guy. You want to look at his stories and his criteria for what he's looking for because he immediately, the first things he does is excludes animal attacks. Possible murders, all these things. Like he has a whole baseline to weed out all that shit. There's plenty of those that fall into those categories. Yeah, he's looking strictly for the stuff that cannot be explained.
A lot of that stuff is people who went into woods or some mountainous terrain or something like that, and they disappeared. Now, the one where like people were actually with him and he went up to the next stop and disappeared, that leads me to believe that he just wanted to fucking get gone.
Just wanted to get gone. He's a doctor. He just wanted to disappear.
Yeah. I don't know his reason behind it, but that's the only reason that I can find before it. Like, I mean,
what about
it could be paranormal. Like, don't get me wrong. I'm willing to admit that like there might be something paranormal behind it, but me as a skeptic, I don't.
Well, we don't have to say we don't have to call it paranormal. Like, it could be like paranormal. Bigfoot's not paranormal. That could just be a being.
Like, well, we're not necessarily talking about Bigfoot anymore. We're talking about people going missing because
right.
I think
aliens could be whatever.
Bigfoot. We've seen most of those are just stuff that people made up to try and fucking convince other people that Bigfoot did it as a hoax or whatever. I don't buy into that or Loch Ness Monster or anything like that. The one that I would be, if you want to talk about like the whole Bigfoot theory and stuff like that, is like Yetis in the Himalayas, just because I think that that's a vast terrain that there might be an ape-like creature that eventually got excluded from the world and still hasn't been discovered yet. That's just out there, and they're just living in such a small community of them that they're really hard to find. But that's about it. And I really don't even buy into that all that much. So, yeah. That's my thought on Bigfoot.
I am Bigfoot. If you try to take a picture of me right now,
I was about ready to say, I think there's probably been a couple times where I'm out at a lake fucking walking through the forest barefoot, fucking shit like that, and other people are just like, I saw Bigfoot. Like, how many people you think saw me just out in the forest and fucking went and told their parents that they saw Bigfoot? But I was gone when the parents came and looked.
It'd be funny because they'd be like, man, it's crazy. He was so big and hairy, but he had the tiniest dick.
Yeah, just the tiniest dick.
Tiny little Peter. Little Johnny.
Actually, that's probably why they might think I'm Bigfoot, because all the fucking bush just completely engulfs my wiener, so fucking they think it's like a dog dick or whatever. Like, unless I was walking around with a boner. Unless I was just walking around with like a boner, they fucking really wouldn't even know I had a dick.
Was it like a mushroom growing out of a grassy field?
It's a fucking hornet's nest and a doorbell.
Trophy sitting on a trophy case,
something like that,
on your ball sack.
Something like that. All right, bro, but we've derailed this one quite a bit, so
I feel like it's entertaining.
Yeah, you can send me some 411 shit. We're also working on an hour, so if we want to, I think that we kind of did the aliens thing. We got where we needed to. We got into paranormal a little bit. Neither of us really buy into that. The 411 I don't buy into, but unless you show me some like real empirical evidence, I'm not gonna buy into it.
Together. Next time you're hanging out, we're gonna fucking.
I'm down because I like getting into some good shit. Yeah, I like getting into that shit. So
because there's a bunch of shit that's just clearly like it's people like clout chasing. Like I said, it's like people who have seen what he's done. I can write a book on it, or I can make a YouTube stream, and they build off it. But this motherfucker, dude, I mean, he's been doing it a long time. You know,
have you ever, speaking of stuff like this, have you ever gotten into dark web stories and stuff like that, like creepypastas and stuff like that?
Really? No.
That's something that I kind of got into a little bit. If you do it, I recommend just being a little hesitant towards it, because that was like sleep with the lights on, fucking like really scared myself a bit getting into the finer ports of the dark web and stuff like that. I even went on there and did some stuff on there, but I didn't get too far into it because it was like, you know what, there's some really sketchy people out here that I just don't need to be fucking with. But regardless, you can go on like 4chan or Reddit and stuff and just read stories, and some of the stories are pretty fucking creepy. And then some of them.
Start me on a rabbit hole. I like that shit. Leave me the one. Just let me the one.